I knew something was wrong when my granddaughter stopped calling me on Sundays. For 11 years, every Sunday at 6, Lily called no matter where she was. College dormitory, first apartment, airport terminal, noisy restaurant parking lot. Sometimes only for 5 minutes, sometimes an hour. She would tell me about classes, jobs, men she did not trust enough, shoes she bought anyway, and whatever nonsense her father had said that week. Then the calls stopped. The first Sunday I thought she was busy. The second I thought she was sick. By the third, I knew someone had told her not to call me. Families rarely begin with explosions. They begin with silences. So on the fourth Sunday, at 6 o'clock exactly, I called her myself. It rang once, then went to voicemail. That told me everything. Lily never sent me to voicemail. I set the phone down carefully and looked around my kitchen. The same yellow curtains I had sewn myself 20 years ago. The ceramic bowl by the stove with garlic in it. The clock above the pantry that ran 5 minutes fast because my husband believed lateness was moral failure. My house was quiet, too quiet lately. Since my husband Frank died 3 years earlier, I had learned to tolerate quiet. But there is ordinary quiet, and there is the kind that arrives because people are arranging things without you. I had heard that kind before. My son Mark began visiting more often that month. He brought groceries I did not ask for. He fixed faucets that were not broken. He asked casual questions, in a voice too casual to trust. Mom, where do you keep your insurance papers now? Mom, have you thought about simplifying things? Mom, those stairs worry me. I was 69, not 99. I still drove my own car. I still kept books balanced, taxes filed, garden trimmed, and neighbors properly judged. But Mark had developed the patient tone adult children use when they want witnesses to hear how kind they are. Then he started bringing people. My daughter Claire came twice in 1 week after ignoring me for months. She stood in my living room, talking loudly about retirement communities, as if discussing weather. My nephew Jordan, who only appeared when money could smell him, offered to help manage repairs. Even Mark's wife, Denise, suddenly hugged me every time she arrived. Denise hated hugging unless photographs were involved. I smiled through all of it. Old women survive by learning when to smile quietly. The real warning came on Thursday afternoon. I was pruning roses near the front fence when Mrs. Hanley from next door leaned over with the expression neighbors, where when carrying gossip disguised as concern. Edith, she said, I hope you don't mind me asking. Are you moving? I straightened slowly. No. Oh, she blinked. It's just Mark mentioned a transition plan. Transition. People rename ugly things when they want them to sound clean. What transition plan? She immediately regretted speaking. I'm sure I misunderstood. No, I said. You understood enough. She lowered her voice. He said the family was meeting Sunday to vote on next steps. Vote on me. I thanked her, went inside, washed dirt from my hands, and sat at the kitchen table for a full 10 minutes without moving. My family was holding a vote about my future, without inviting me. Some women would cry, some would rage. I made tea. Then I opened the blue metal box Frank always called the box nobody respects until disaster. Inside were deeds, contracts, insurance binders, old tax returns, certificates, and one sealed envelope marked in Frank's handwriting, if they ever become foolish. I almost laughed. Frank had known people the way farmers know weather. I opened the envelope. Inside were 3 copies of one agreement, a notarized statement, and a note. Edith, if anyone ever tries to decide your future without asking you, please enjoy yourself. Everything important is already in your name. Love, Frank. I read the papers once, then twice. Then I leaned back in my chair and laughed so hard tears came. For 37 years, my family had believed Frank owned everything. The house, the rental duplex, the lake lot. Even the business shares he sold before retirement. That had always amused Frank because, legally, almost all of it had been transferred into my name years earlier after a tax restructuring his accountant recommended. He used to say, let them underestimate the woman who remembers where every dollar went. Apparently they had. Sunday arrived bright and smug, At 2 in the afternoon, Mark texted me. Busy today, Mom. Will come by tomorrow. I texted back. No need. I'll see you at 3. He did not respond. At 2:45, I parked across from Claire's house and watched cars arrive. Mark and Denise first. Jordan next, stepping out like a man attending a will reading in advance. Then Claire's husband, who looked miserable already. At 2:58, I crossed the street carrying a lemon cake. No one expects danger holding dessert. Claire opened the door and nearly dropped her smile. Mom! Hello, darling. I heard there was a family gathering. She blocked the entrance instinctively. We were just talking. Excellent, I adore talking. I stepped past her. The living room fell silent. Mark stood near the fireplace holding papers. My granddaughter Lily sat in the corner looking pale and ashamed. When she saw me, tears filled her eyes. That told me she had not chosen the silence. Mom, Mark said sharply, you should have called first. I did. No one answered. No one moved. There were folding chairs arranged in a semicircle, a legal pad on the coffee table. Printed handouts. My son had made an agenda. I set the lemon cake down beside it. Well, I said, this looks official. No one spoke because everyone was deciding which version of the lie to use first. I looked around the room slowly. Claire avoided my eyes. Denise stared at the cake as if pastries caused this. Jordan gave me the smile of a man who thinks charm can survive any situation. Lily looked ready to crawl through the wall. Mark recovered first. Mom, sit down. That tone again. Not invitation, instruction. I remained standing. I'd rather hear what I'm being voted on. His jaw tightened. You're being dramatic. No. I'm being punctual. A sound escaped Lily that might have been a laugh before she swallowed it. Mark shot her a warning glance. Interesting. He was not only organizing adults. He was controlling the youngest witness too. Claire stepped forward with both palms raised. We were concerned about you. Concern often arrives carrying folders, I said, nodding toward the handouts. She flushed. It's just planning. For what? Your future. I seem to be in it already. Jordan chuckled softly, hoping to ease tension. Edith, nobody's against you here. People who call you by your first name while trying to take your life apart are rarely allies. Then perhaps you can explain the chairs. He opened his hands. Family discussion. With ballots, I asked. That landed harder than I expected. Mark glanced at the coffee table too quickly, so there were ballots. I crossed the room and picked up the top sheet before anyone could stop me. Family support options, option A. Assisted living placement, option B. Move in with Mark and Denise, option C. Sale of primary residence to fund care at the bottom. Majority recommendation, I looked up. You made a survey, Mark exhaled loudly. Mom, listen for once, we're trying to prevent a crisis. What crisis? You living alone. I laughed then, once clean and sharp. I made jam yesterday, balanced 2 accounts this morning, changed a furnace filter last week. And drove myself here 15 minutes ago. That's not the point. It never is when facts arrive. Claire's husband coughed into his fist to hide a smile. I noticed everything. Lily suddenly stood. I told Dad this was wrong. Mark snapped toward her. Sit down. No, his face darkened. Lily. She looked at me, voice trembling. He told me if I kept calling you, you'd get confused and upset. The room changed temperature. Mark barked back immediately. I said too many calls were stressful. You blocked my number on Grandma's tablet, Claire gasped. Denise whispered, Mark. He rounded on everyone. Can we stay focused? Predators hate side conversations. I set the paper down carefully. You isolated me from my granddaughter. That is ridiculous. You changed settings on my tablet last month when you updated it. He said nothing. Silence is confession wearing no costume. I turned to Lily. Come here. She crossed the room and I held her hand. Warm, shaking, furious. Good. Young people should be furious sometimes. Mark straightened the stack of papers as if neatness could restore authority. Fine. Since everyone wants honesty, let's be honest. He faced the room like a man beginning a presentation. Mom forgets things. I remember your first lie at age 6, I said. He ignored me. She leaves doors unlocked. Twice in 10 years. She fell last winter. On ice outdoors. She cannot maintain that property. Which property? I asked mildly. He blinked. The house. Only the house, he frowned. What does that mean? Continue, I said. You seem rehearsed. Claire rubbed her temples. Mark, maybe we should slow down. No. This is exactly why nothing gets done in this family. Ah, yes, the speech of men who create chaos and then resent cleanup speed. He began pacing. The house is too much. Taxes keep rising. Repairs are constant. If we sell now, we preserve value. Then Mom can move somewhere safe and we can manage the proceeds responsibly. There it was, manage the proceeds. Jordan nodded almost invisibly. Denise stared at the floor. Lily squeezed my hand harder. I asked the question softly. Who is we? Mark stopped pacing. The family. No. Name the hands. He pointed to himself. I'd oversee finances. Of course, Claire spoke up quickly. I never agreed to that. He spun toward her. You said someone had to take charge. I said someone had to help. Same thing. No, I said. Those are opposite things. Lily laughed openly this time. Mark's face reddened. You're all missing reality. Mom doesn't know what things cost. I reached into my handbag and removed a folded paper. My property tax payment from last month. Then another. Insurance renewal. Then another. Quarterly statements. Then another. Rental income deposit. He stared. Rental what? Now every eye in the room turned to me. I enjoyed that more than perhaps I should admit. The duplex on Carter Street, Claire frowned. Dad sold that years ago. No, I said. Your father said he sold it because you all talked too much. Jordan's mouth literally opened. Mark recovered first. That's impossible. No. It's taxable. I took a seat at last, crossing one ankle over the other. The Queen had entered late but seated herself well. For 22 years, I said, that duplex has been in my name. Denise looked at Mark. You said your parents barely had savings. Mark did not answer. Claire whispered, what else? I smiled politely. A dangerous question. Lily whispered, Grandma, are you rich? No, darling, I am organized. Even Claire's miserable husband laughed aloud. Mark slammed a hand onto the mantel. This changes nothing. It changes arithmetic, I said. You still can't live alone. I can hire help. You won't. I can if I choose. You're being manipulated. By whom? Facts. I opened my handbag again and removed the notarized packet from Frank's envelope. This may interest everyone. Mark stared at the seal. What is that? Your father's sense of humor. I handed copies to Claire and Denise first. Never feed the hungriest wolf first. Claire read aloud unintentionally. In the event of my death, all titled real property, income holdings, and controlling interests previously transferred to my wife Edith remain solely hers. Free of claim by descendants unless granted voluntarily. Jordan swore under his breath. Denise looked at Mark as if meeting him for the second time. Lily grinned like sunrise. Mark lunged for the page. I folded it away before he touched it. You lied, he said. No, I replied. We allowed assumptions. He took a step closer. You hid assets from us. From you. We're your children. Yes, not shareholders. Claire covered her mouth to hide laughter or tears. Mark pointed at the chairs, the papers, the whole room. We are trying to protect this family. No, I said quietly. You are trying to inherit it early. No one defended him. That was the loudest sound yet. Mark looked around the room as if betrayal had occurred. Men like him often mistake disagreement for treason. You're all just going to sit there, he demanded. Claire folded her arms. What exactly did you expect? That we'd vote our mother out of her own life? We needed a plan. You needed access, she replied. That surprised me. Claire had spent most of adulthood avoiding conflict the way some people avoid dairy. Yet now there she was, spine visible for the first time in years. Mark turned to Denise. Say something. She lifted one shoulder. I'm thinking. That usually helps, I said. Lily snorted. He spun toward Jordan. You understand finances. Jordan immediately stepped backward emotionally, if not physically. I understand signatures, he said, and none of this had one. cowardly but useful. Mark's face hardened. You all knew she couldn't manage. I stood. That shut him up faster than shouting would have. When your father had surgery, I said, who ran the hardware store books for 8 months? He said nothing. When Claire divorced, who handled the lawyer bills and childcare schedules? Silence. When you declared bankruptcy at 32, who refinanced her own car to help you restart? His jaw twitched. I stepped closer. When Lily needed tuition her second year, who paid the shortfall quietly because you were between opportunities? Lily turned sharply toward him. You told me you paid that. He snapped. I intended to. Meaning no, I said. The room had become a museum of exposed things. Denise sat down slowly as if her knees no longer trusted marriage. You used my bonus too, she asked. Mark glared at her. Not now. That means yes, she said. Interesting woman, slow to wake but awake now. He pointed at me. This is what you do. You turn everyone against me. No, I replied. I remove your script. He grabbed the stack of ballots from the table and crumpled them. Fine, no vote. You already lost it, Lily said. I nearly applauded. Mark rounded on her. You don't speak to me like that. She just did, I said. Claire's husband coughed again into his fist, but this time he did not hide the smile at all. Mark began pacing, faster now. Okay, fine, you want truth. Here's truth. Mom's assets are being wasted. My assets. Remarkable how quickly children rename your life when greed matures. Wasted on what? I asked. Empty rooms, maintenance, taxes, sentimental nonsense. I looked around Claire's living room. Every framed photo, every inherited vase, every keepsake shelf item in that house was sentimental nonsense given structure. Do you know why your father transferred everything to my name? I asked. He laughed bitterly. Because you manipulated him. Claire inhaled sharply. Even Jordan winced. I nodded slowly. There it is. The story you tell yourself so failure feels unfair. He took another step toward me. Dad knew I'd be cut out. Your father knew appetite. His voice rose. I'm his son, and yet not his habits. That struck clean. Mark moved so suddenly Lily jumped. He snatched the blue folder from my chair and backed away. If everything's so legal, I'll take this and let a real attorney look at it. Before anyone else moved, Denise stood and blocked the doorway. No, he stared at her. Move, no, you're my wife, she smiled sadly. That phrase has done a lot of work for you. The room went still. Mark tried another tone, softer. Denise, don't embarrass me. She held out her hand. Give Edith her folder. He looked at me, then Claire, then Jordan, searching for allies and finding furniture. Finally, he threw the folder onto the sofa. Papers spilled. One envelope slid free. Not mine. A bank envelope addressed to Mark. Denise saw it first and picked it up. Open it, Lily said. Don't, Mark barked, which of course guaranteed it. Denise unfolded the letter, then read in silence for several seconds too long. What is it? Claire asked. Denise looked up slowly. Foreclosure notice. The room tilted toward him. On what? I asked. He said nothing. Denise answered for him, our house. Ah, now many pieces arranged themselves, the urgency, the vote. The transition plan. The need to manage proceeds responsibly. He was not only trying to remove me, he was trying to plug his own collapse with my walls. When were you going to tell me? Denise asked. I was handling it. There was that sacred word again. She laughed once joylessly. With my retirement account too. He said nothing. She nodded. That means yes. Claire sat down hard. My God, Mark. Jordan quietly moved farther from him, a man measuring blast radius. Lily crossed the room and stood beside me. I liked the symbolism. Mark pointed wildly now. This is temporary. If Mom sold now, everyone could be made whole. Everyone. Such a generous word for thieves. I spoke carefully because calm humiliates panic. You built a rescue raft out of my roof. You owe us. The sentence shocked even him after it escaped. I saw immediate regret, too late. Owe you, I asked, for raising us. For everything we gave up helping you. Claire stood so fast her chair tipped. What did we give up, Mark? Sundays, basic decency, he shouted back. You always let her judge me. No, Claire cried. You just finally earned it. The siblings stared at one another, years of old wars suddenly visible. I was tired of all of it. Enough, the room obeyed. Interesting how authority returns when properly used. I picked up my folder, gathered the papers, and took my handbag. This meeting is over, Mark laughed harshly. You can't just walk out. Watch me, I've had practice. I turned to Lily. Would you like cake later? Yes, to Claire. Would you like the lemon cake? Yes, to Denise. Would you like a lawyer's phone number? A beat passed. Then she said, very much. Even now, I admire timing. Mark blocked my path one last time. If you leave, don't expect me to come begging later. I met his eyes. That is the first comforting thing you've said all day. He moved aside. I reached the door, then paused. One more matter, I said without turning. The lake lot, he froze. Claire frowned. What lake lot? I smiled at the hallway. Exactly. Then I walked out while chaos reopened behind me. Lily ran after me before I reached the car. Grandma, wait. I turned as she came down the front path, coat half-buttoned, hair wild from rushing. You're not staying for cake, I asked. She laughed through tears. I hate him right now. That will pass. I don't want it to. That will pass too. She threw her arms around me so hard I nearly dropped my handbag. Young people hug like they still believe damage can be squeezed backward. I'm sorry, she whispered. I thought you were ignoring me. I suspected otherwise. He took my phone one day and said he'd help fix your settings. After that, you never answered me. Then he said you were getting overwhelmed and needed less stress. I stroked her hair. Liars love using health as camouflage. She pulled back. Are you okay? No, I said. But I'm interested. That made her laugh again. I handed her the spare cake tin I had brought. Take this inside before your mother lets Jordan steal it. She smiled. Can I come by tomorrow? Only if you call first. I will. She kissed my cheek and hurried back toward the battlefield. I drove home with the windows cracked despite the cold. Nothing clears a woman like leaving nonsense behind. At home, I made fresh tea and sat at my kitchen table under the fast clock Frank loved. The house held me the way old houses do when they know your shape. I spread the papers across the table. The house deed, the duplex records, investment statements, the lake lot title. I smiled at that one. The lake lot was 30 acres of mostly useless shoreline 2 hours north that Frank bought in the 80s because he liked maps and poor decisions involving fishing. The family assumed he sold it years ago after one mosquito-filled summer. He had not. He transferred it to me, naturally. I was halfway through my second cup of tea when headlights swept the driveway. Mark, he pounded once on the front door, then twice, then used the key I had foolishly never reclaimed years earlier. The deadbolt stopped him. I had changed that lock after Frank died because grief sharpens some instincts. Mom, he shouted through the door. Open up. I remained seated. He knocked harder. I know you're in there, still seated. Mom. Finally I rose, crossed the hall, and spoke through the closed door. You are loud for a man who came to apologize. I need to talk. You had 2 hours. This is serious. So was the vote. He hit the door with an open palm. Stop being childish. I nearly admired the audacity. You may lower your voice or leave. Silence. Then a quieter tone. Please. I opened the inner wooden door but left the screen locked. He stood on the porch flushed and desperate. I messed up. Yes, Denise left. She appears medically sound. This isn't funny. No, he gripped the frame. She took copies of everything. That sounds organized. Mom, I let him wait. Waiting is educational. I need help, he said finally. There it was again. The destination hidden inside every road he took. With what? The mortgage, some business debts, credit cards. How much? He looked away. Roughly 140,000. Yes, I whistled softly. He hated that. You have assets. I have boundaries. You can't let your own son drown. Watch me float. His eyes filled. Real tears this time, perhaps. Desperation can sometimes wash a face clean. I was trying to fix things before anyone knew. You called a vote. I panicked. You schemed. I'm sorry. For what specifically? He blinked. Specificity is kryptonite to false remorse. For pressuring you. What else? For talking to Lily. What else? For discussing the house. Selling the house, he swallowed. For trying to sell the house. What else? Nothing, that was enough answer. You are not sorry for using me, I said. You are sorry it failed. That's not fair. No. Fair was available earlier. He leaned his forehead against the screen door. What am I supposed to do? Call the bank, sell your car, get a second job, tell the truth to your wife. Live smaller. Learn shame without theatrics. He laughed bitterly. You make it sound easy. I make it sound adult. His shoulders sagged. Then, because some poisons take time to leave the blood, he said the sentence I had expected all evening. Dad would have helped me. I opened the screen door halfway. Hope flickered across his face. Then I handed him a sealed envelope, Frank's handwriting on the front, for Mark if he ever asks too late. Mark stared. What is this? Your father's answer. He tore it open immediately. Inside was one folded sheet. He read, color left his face. What does it say? I asked. He handed it to me wordlessly. I read aloud. Mark, if you are asking your mother for rescue after trying to corner her, the answer is no. Sell what flatters you. Keep what feeds you. Work more than you complain. And if you blame me for this, you have learned nothing. Dad, I laughed so suddenly I had to hold the frame. Mark looked wounded. He wrote that years ago. Yes, he thought I'd fail. No, I said, he thought you'd avoid effort. That struck deeper. He stepped back from the porch. You both always judged me. We measured you. He stared at the house, at the lights inside, at the place he once assumed would save him. Then he said quietly, I don't know how to start over. There at last was something true. Smaller, I said. He looked up. Start smaller. For a moment he seemed 12 years old again, standing beside a broken bicycle asking how gears worked. Then pride returned to cover the opening. He shoved the note into his pocket. You'll regret this. No, I said. I'll grieve it, different word. He walked to his car and drove away too fast. I locked the door, returned to the kitchen, and sat with trembling hands. Strength costs energy people never mention. The next week became administrative warfare. Denise called first. She wanted the number of that accountant who scares people. I gave her 2 numbers. Claire came by with groceries and guilt. I should have told you sooner, she said. You should have asked sooner, she nodded. We shelled peas in silence like civilized women repairing damage sideways. Lily resumed Sunday calls and added Wednesday ones. Jordan sent flowers with no card. I sent them back. Then on Friday, a certified letter arrived from an attorney representing Mark. He requested an emergency family mediation regarding anticipated inheritance interests. I laughed so hard tea came out my nose. Then I called Judge Ramirez, the retired attorney who played bridge with me twice a month and cheated openly. He read the letter, smiled, and said, Would you like to ruin his afternoon professionally? Yes, I said. Excellent. 2 weeks later, the family gathered again. This time in a lawyer's conference room, and I had brought maps. Law offices smell the same everywhere. Coffee, paper, carpet cleaner, and controlled disappointment. Judge Ramirez insisted I call him Victor outside official settings, but no one in that room looked capable of calling him anything except sir. He was 76, silver-haired, sharp as winter glass, and wore kindness the way some men wear hats, only when weather required it. Mark sat at one end of the conference table beside his attorney, a young man with expensive shoes and the expression of someone who had not been told the whole story. Denise sat separately. Interesting development. Claire and Lily sat beside me. Claire looked tense. Lily looked entertained. Youth recovers quickly. Jordan had not come, which was the wisest decision of his month. Victor opened the meeting. We are here regarding Mr. Mark Lawson's request for mediation concerning alleged future inheritance expectations. He paused. I would like to congratulate whoever wrote that phrase. It is nonsense in 7 elegant words. Lily coughed into her hand to hide laughter. Mark glared at her. His attorney straightened papers. My client simply seeks fairness and transparency. Victor nodded gravely. Then he has chosen a dangerous room. I nearly adored him. Mark leaned forward. Mom has hidden major assets from the family for years. Victor turned to me. Mrs. Lawson, have you hidden assets? No, I said. I stored them legally and slept well. Victor made a note. Excellent distinction. The young attorney cleared his throat. My client contributed labor, maintenance, and family support with the understanding that he held a future stake in certain properties. I raised a hand. May I ask how many roofs he repaired? The attorney blinked. I don't know. None, I said. Driveways shoveled. Unknown. Taxes paid. No answer. Emergency furnace replacement in 2017. Silence. Then perhaps his understanding was decorative. Victor wrote again, perhaps only doodling, but with intimidating seriousness. Mark lost patience quickly. This is ridiculous. Dad always said everything would stay in the family. I spoke before Victor could. It has, he frowned. What? I gestured to Claire, Lily, and myself. The attorney looked at Mark sharply for the first time. There is always a moment when hired professionals realize their client is not unlucky, merely unreliable. Mark changed tactics. Fine. Then I'm asking for a loan against future distribution. Victor looked delighted. Ah, we have reached the real request. Denise closed her eyes. How much? I asked. 100,000. Claire made a choking sound. Lily whispered, he's insane. Mark continued as if numbers were trivial. It would stabilize things, keep me in the house. Let me reset. Denise laughed softly from across the table. Our house is already listed. Everyone turned. Mark whipped toward her. What? You told them we were working it out. You signed papers. I signed separation papers. That room became worth every minute of my week. The young attorney slowly removed his glasses. Mr. Lawson, he said carefully, are you currently in divorce proceedings? Mark said nothing. Do you have active foreclosure status? Nothing. Outstanding personal debt beyond what you disclosed? Nothing. Victor folded his hands. I believe counsel has entered the discovery phase emotionally. Claire burst into laughter, so sudden she had tears in her eyes. Even I smiled openly. Mark slammed his palm on the table. Can everyone stop humiliating me? I answered gently. No one here had to assist. He stood. You enjoy this. That accusation often comes from people who mistake firmness for cruelty. No, I said. I enjoy clarity. He pointed at me. You'd rather watch me lose everything than help. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I answered truthfully. I would rather watch you learn anything. He froze. The young attorney gathered his folder. Mr. Lawson, I need to speak with you privately. I'm not done. You are with me. He was led into the hallway like an angry student. The door closed. Silence settled. Denise exhaled for what looked like the first time in years. I should apologize, she said. You should invoice him, Lily replied. I nearly choked. Denise smiled despite herself. Claire looked at me. Did Dad really plan all this? No, I said. He simply believed consequences should have addresses. Victor nodded approvingly. Well put. When Mark returned 10 minutes later, the fight had leaked out of him. His attorney did not. My client withdraws all inheritance-related claims. Wise man. However, he continued, he requests consideration of a private family loan under whatever terms Mrs. Lawson chooses. Victor looked to me. The room waited. I had imagined this moment in several moods. Angry, vindictive, cold. Instead, I felt tired and strangely calm. Very well, I said. Mark straightened. Hope is dangerous in greedy people. I will offer terms. He nodded eagerly. I took out a sheet of paper I had prepared that morning. Victor smiled before I even read it. Term 1, the loan amount is 0. Mark's face fell. Term 2, you will attend gambling counseling weekly for 1 year. He opened his mouth. Term 3, you will provide written apologies to Lily, Claire, and Denise without excuses. He closed it again. Term 4, you will never again discuss my assets as family resources. His eyes burned. Term 5, if you need groceries, medical care, or temporary rent due to honest hardship, you may ask plainly. Not scheme, ask. The room was silent enough to hear air vents. I continued. Term 6, if you lie, the answer becomes no for 1 calendar year. Lily whispered, Grandma is terrifying. Victor beamed. Mark stared at the paper. So no money, so no theft. You'd help me with groceries like a child. I would help you like a human, different category. His pride wrestled visibly with hunger. Then something unexpected happened. He sat down, not dramatically, not defeated, just sat. And for the first time in months, maybe years, he looked smaller than his excuses. I don't know how to stop, he said quietly. No one moved. No one mocked him. Truth deserves at least a pause. Victor spoke gently. Then begin there. Mark rubbed his eyes. I ruined everything. Denise answered from across the table. Not everything. Some of us left in time. He nodded once. Fair enough. I slid a business card across the table. Counselor. Debt advisor. Community employment office on the back. He stared at it. You planned this too. I planned options, I said. Your father taught me. The meeting ended without handshakes. Mark left alone. Denise left lighter. Claire hugged me in the hallway. I didn't know you were this tough. I wasn't, I said. I was busy. Lily linked arms with me as we walked to the parking lot. What are the maps for? She asked. I blinked. Then remembered the rolled papers beside my chair. Ah, yes, I smiled. The lake lot, Victor overheard and laughed. Dear God, there's more. Oh, yes, I said, and I've decided to build something on it. What? Claire asked. I unlocked the car. A women's retreat, I said, for mothers recovering from adult children. Lily screamed with laughter, but I was only half joking. The joke refused to remain a joke. That happens sometimes when a woman says something lightly and hears truth hiding inside it. For the next week, everyone laughed whenever I mentioned the lake lot. Claire said, Yes, Mother, a retreat for emotionally damaged mothers with canoe access. Lily designed a fake brochure with pine trees and the slogan, We believe you, even about your son. Victor asked if bridge tables would be tax deductible. Even I laughed. Then on Thursday morning, I drove north with a thermos of coffee, a notebook, and the old survey maps Frank had kept rolled in the hall closet. The land looked exactly as memory edits things. Bigger. Wilder, more hopeful than practical. Tall pines lined the gravel track. Brush had overtaken the clearing where Frank once insisted he would build a cabin, next summer, for 12 consecutive summers. The shoreline curved quietly around dark water, wind-rippled and indifferent. I got out of the car and stood there listening. No phones, no arguments, no family meetings. Just birds and the kind of silence people pay thousands to rediscover. I sat on the hood of the car and laughed until tears came. Frank, you impossible man. He had bought peace and hidden it in paperwork. I walked the property slowly, cane sinking now, and then into soft ground. There was a flat rise near the water perfect for a small lodge. Another area suited for gardens. Enough trees to make privacy feel natural instead of purchased. By the time I drove home, the notebook held 3 pages of ideas. By dinner, it held 6. By Sunday, I had a name. Second Sundays, because too many women lose years to first loyalties. When I told Lily, she nearly levitated with excitement. We need a website. We need plumbing, I said. We need both. Claire was skeptical in the way practical daughters often are. You want to start a business at 70. I want to start refusing expiration dates. Victor volunteered legal help immediately. I have always wanted to write liability waivers for healing. So that is how it began, not with investors or branding meetings or confidence. With irritation, land ownership, and women who had enough. We started small, 3 renovated cabins, a common room with books, quilts, and no television, walking paths. A dock rebuilt by 2 retired carpenters who flirted shamelessly with every woman present regardless of decade. A kitchen run seasonally by Mrs. Hanley from next door who turned gossip into soups of uncommon depth. Workshops emerged accidentally. How to understand your finances. How to say no without a speech. Widowhood and paperwork. Late life confidence for beginners. Boundaries without guilt. Lily ran the website and social media with terrifying efficiency. Claire managed bookings after discovering she loved systems more than she loved complaining. I handled interviews. Only women recovering from exploitation, grief, family manipulation, or major life turns were accepted at first. Not because men are impossible, but because I knew my audience. The first guest arrived in May, 74, recently widowed. Her son had moved into her basement and begun charging her for utilities in a house she owned. The second guest was 59, and divorcing a man who called her emotional whenever facts appeared. The third came because her children had convinced her she was too old to travel, so she booked a train out of spite. By autumn, we had a waiting list. The local paper did a feature titled, "Widow Turns Hidden Lake Lot into Retreat for Women Reclaiming Their Lives." I framed it. Then Mark called. I had not heard from him in nearly 4 months. He attended counseling. I knew because he sent attendance confirmations without comment, as required under my terms if he wanted any practical help later. He had also written apologies. Lily S. was sincere, Claire's was clumsy, Denise's was returned unopened. Mine was short. "You were right about appetite. I kept that one." Now his voice on the phone sounded stripped down. "Mom, yes, I got a job. That is excellent news. Warehouse supervisor, early shifts, hard work, no glamour, good. How long? 3 weeks. Still excellent." A pause. "I wanted to tell you before someone else did." "That was considerate." Another pause. "I also sold the car." "Even better," he laughed weakly. "Dad would have enjoyed that." "Yes," I said. "Immensely." Then came the harder part. "Can I visit sometime?" I looked out my kitchen window at rain moving across the yard. "Why?" "I don't know how to talk to you yet." Honest again. "Interesting, then perhaps wait until you do." He accepted that quietly. "Okay." When we hung up, I did not cry. I did not rejoice either. Some relationships do not heal like broken bones. They heal like flood damage. Slowly, with replacements. Winter brought snow to the retreat and unexpected popularity. Women wanted fireplaces, journals, and places where no one called them dramatic. We added weekend programs. Victor taught estate planning with the menace of a retired judge. Mrs. Hanley taught pie crust and surveillance. Lily hosted sessions on technology fraud, privacy settings, and how relatives use confusion as a weapon. The room was always full for that one. Then one February afternoon, Claire came to my house carrying a folder and looking embarrassed. "I need advice," she said. "Wonderful, it means age has finally made me useful." She rolled her eyes. "I'm leaving Tom." I blinked. Her husband, miserable but harmless Tom, had existed in the family like wallpaper for 28 years. "Why?" "He lets everyone else decide things and calls it peace." Ah, inherited disease. We spent 4 hours at my kitchen table reviewing finances, legal steps, housing options, and how to distinguish loneliness from bad bargains. When she left, she hugged me tightly. "I should have stood up sooner," she whispered. "We begin where we notice." Second Sundays became more than cabins. It became evidence. That life after betrayal is not over. That usefulness does not expire. That women trained to keep households together can also build new worlds once they stop carrying everyone else. The final surprise came in spring. Mark arrived at the retreat unannounced, standing awkwardly beside the sign Lily had painted. Second Sundays, he looked thinner, steadier, older in the useful way. "I know I should have called." "Yes, I was nearby for work. Convenient geography." He almost smiled. "I wanted to see it." I studied him. No expensive watch, no restless eyes, no performance. Just a man learning how ordinary effort feels. I walked him to the dock. We stood looking over the Lake Frank bought by accident and saved by stubbornness. "It's beautiful," he said. "It was always here." He nodded. "I was." That one hurt because it was true. After a while he said, "I'm paying debts down." "Good. I rent a small place." "Also good. I make coffee at home now." "Your father would call that character development." He laughed. Then grew serious. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Wise. I'd still like the chance to earn trust." I looked at the water. Wind moved across it in lines. Trust is strange, harder than love, slower than regret. You may visit on Sundays, I said. He swallowed. Only Sundays? Second Sundays. He laughed through sudden tears. Fair enough. Years later, when people asked how I built a successful retreat business at 70, I always told the truth. My son tried to hold a family vote to remove me. And accidentally gave me the best meeting of my life.